Paul Saladino is a carnivore doctor. He claims to be the leading authority on the carnivore diet. That doesn't make much sense, considering he received his MD in psychiatry merely 2 years ago, has barely any clinical experience, let alone in nutrition, hasn't even been following the carnivore diet for 2 years, and just prior to that, had a face full of spinach telling you how good plant foods are. Since Paul has graced us with his presence, his ideas and information have been plagiarized from several sources, mostly my own YouTube channel. Paul has copied his way all the way to the Joe Rogan Experience, and to no surprise, he plagiarized over 50 of my ideas to structure the entire conversation of the podcast. For anyone unfamiliar, the definition of plagiarism is passing someone else's ideas off as your own without crediting them. Since many of Paul's buddies are telling me this isn't plagiarism and that I should be grateful for him spreading my knowledge, I thought things over. And one of my buddies made Paul a website as a thank you present. Check out paulsaladino.com for all of Paul's amazing ideas. Since there are so many instances of plagiarism on this podcast, I'm going to play the clip from the Joe Rogan podcast, play my clip from several months to years ago on my YouTube channel, then I'll briefly explain it. And keep in mind, this is what I had the willingness to find. I would safely bet there's over 100 instances in this entire podcast of direct plagiarism. And before we start, I do want to say, whoever wrote the script for this podcast did an excellent job of condensing the past 3 years of my YouTube channel into a few hours. The tissue of these animals contains everything our body needs. It gives us the fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, K2, all of the fatty acids our bodies need, and then we digest the triglycerides, turn them into chylomicrons, and the chylomicrons transport these vitamins around our bodies. So why are we so afraid of our blood work? 28. He copied my explanation of nutrient transport in triglycerides. And again, this wouldn't necessarily be plagiarism, but once it's become blatantly obvious that any word that comes out of this guy's mouth has been learned from my YouTube channel, you just have to search and find it. If he says something that's intelligent or creative or appears new and exciting, it came from my YouTube channel. He does not do anything on his own. He's out surfing or doing some BS. Who knows what he's doing? But everything this guy says will be found on my YouTube channel. Guaranteed. Something that can be found on his own research, but he didn't do it. He didn't do his own research because he didn't have to. He's got it all laid out on a platform.
Okay, this is the lipid hypothesis. I disagree with this. I think it's an incomplete hypothesis.
The origin of the lipid hypothesis, the idea that cholesterol is bad for us, was hypothesized by Ancel Keys. And let's be clear, people think this lipid hypothesis is a fact, but a hypothesis is never proven. 29. Hey Paul, we both disagree with the lipid hypothesis only brings a certain amount of LDL through the endothelium, but with dysfunction it can be increased greatly. Same with transcytosis, and transcytosis is when the LDL cholesterol is taken into the intima, and various things from TNF-alpha can raise transcytosis up to 4.5 times, oxidized LDLs, leaky gut. And then what happens is when all this excess cholesterol eventually leaks through the arterial wall from glycocalyx dysfunction, from endothelial cell dysfunction, from unregulated transcytosis because of inflammation. Now we have way too much LDL cholesterol in the arterial wall. So these proteoglycans bind to it, and what pretty much happens is the HDL cholesterol cannot keep up. So we could see how all of these things can dysfunction and we can get too much LDL in the arterial wall. Now, what actually happens when there's too much LDL in the arterial wall? VSAMs, which are vascular cell adhesion molecules, mark the injured area, make a 911 call. This releases interleukin-6, tumor necrosis factor alpha, which raises C-reactive protein. And this is one thing that increases the transcytosis, which makes things worse. Monocytes, which are the police officers, the white blood cells, turn into macrophages. They ingest the excess LDL, form it into a foam cell, and this is what causes fatty streaks in the arteries. Now, this is fine as long as HDL comes along and esterifies the cholesterol, allows the cholesterol to be used by various cells and tissues. 32. And man, this one irritates me. I spent so many hours and hours and hours researching this one. But Paul is claiming this is his idea. The cause of heart disease is his hypothesis. Paul doesn't think anyone knows this yet. Paul, I explained this 2 years ago, and I know you saw that video on my channel because you're saying the exact same thing. I am disgusted about how enthusiastic he is in presenting his new information. Well, you better plan on changing your life's work because it's not yours. It's been mine. It will always be mine, and I'm not going anywhere. I don't know why I bothered doing this. It took me like 10 hours to go through all my past videos to find this crap, and I bet you there's, as I said, 30, 40, 50 other instances that I just couldn't find because I'm not going to watch hundreds of hours of my old videos over again when I've already made, 4 or 5 videos exposing this guy's plagiarism. He has adapted all of my ideas, even changes his ideas as I change mine, is starting to talk like me, has been talking like me, uses the same wording, basically stealing my entire persona. This guy's career should be canceled. It should be over, yet he's in the spotlight. What scares me is he hasn't even copied 10% of what's available on my channel. I bet you this guy's cookbook is going to be written solely from the recipes on my YouTube channel. And there's already a second edition of his book, probably because he read my book and said, oh, well, Frank talks positively about some carbohydrates and this ancestral diet stuff is a great idea. He's mimicking what I'm doing. Like, am I going to have to change my life so he stops copying me? Paul, just because you add complicated scientific terminology doesn't mean you can plagiarize my information. You did not add anything extra to my ideas. You just complicated and butchered them. The reason I was able to share these ideas on YouTube is because I interpreted that complicated scientific literature into simple layman's terms that the average person can understand, which is also probably the only reason you were able to understand it well enough to copy it, so then you could recomplicate it and put people to sleep on the podcast because they think you're a boring, non-charismatic prick. You know why Paul was breathing so heavy at the end of that podcast? He knows what he was doing. The amount of information he has stolen, as well as the lies. What rubs salt in the wound is that he has no problem giving dozens of other cucks credit, despite multiple times more information coming from me as a source. Oh yeah, Dave Feldman says it's healthy to have an LDL of 500. Lean math hyper responder. These guys are fucking gonna kill someone because they're retarded. The craziest part about all of this is that there's probably twice as much plagiarism on that podcast that I just couldn't find in my past videos. I can only spend so many hours doing this, guys. What's the point? As I said, I already exposed this guy so many times and it's just not sticking because he has so many connections. All his other buddies are keeping their mouths shut on YouTube to get their mediocre check. In a fair world, I would be invited to the Joe Rogan podcast. Joe would issue me a formal apology. Paul would be denounced as the quack he is because he's a plagiarizing scumbag. But that's not reality. These two degenerates are sitting in their sauna in Texas counting money by selling people snake oil supplements. So that's probably going to be it. I really don't want to ever have to do that again. If I do any future updates on this guy's plagiarism, it will probably be maybe a quarterly or bi-yearly thing where I just point out where he got the information from. And, it's not just me, guys. He's plagiarized dozens of other people as well, except those people aren't, directly compromised because they're not in the carnivore diet space and they didn't have as much of their information stolen. Jason Fung doesn't seem to care that his book cover title was taken. Ray Peat doesn't seem to care that Paul's spouting the same information about omega-3. So, they're all in the same club together. They're all making money together. who cares if one person is getting ripped off? So thank you guys for joining me. I'm probably going to take a break for a day or two just to collect my thoughts. I have no problem making videos every day. It's just, what's the point if this guy is literally just going to copy every single thing as I do it? If I start eating pasta tomorrow, Paul's going to be sponsored by the Italian Durham Wheat Board and start saying how good pasta is. Like, is this ever going to stop? Is it just going to continue? Is that the reality of what's going to happen?
Dr. Paul Saladino, a recently emerging carnivore YouTuber, reached out to me on Twitter wanting to collaborate, and I decided to do some research before having him on my YouTube channel. While I was listening to him on Ben Greenfield's podcast last week, something struck me as odd. He was saying some unique things in the context that I had only heard myself say. That got me suspicious. It took me 3 years of making YouTube videos and 7 years of being on the carnivore diet to develop my understanding of it. Paul Saladino has been on the carnivore diet for a matter of months, and he's already explaining some pretty complex things. On this podcast, Paul mentioned a study in regards to constipation. This sounded really familiar to me because I had made a constipation video a month prior to this podcast and used the same study. So when I went on Ben Greenfield's site and looked at the citations, it was the same study, but not only was that study there were several other studies that were used in my YouTube video that Paul Saladino was referencing. This signaled me to dig deeper. Let's take a look at Paul Saladino's clips compared to my old videos.
If you just take a step back and you think about the idea that the coffee is from a plant seed, it's a coffee cherry, and you're taking the seed of the coffee bean or the seed of the coffee cherry and roasting it. Again, that is the seed of a plant. That is the most highly defended part of the plant, theoretically, conceptually, and that is where the plant is going to put a lot of things that are going to discourage animals from eating it. Mm-hmm. And if you look in the natural world, very few animals eat those seeds. They've eaten them for all of their evolution, and they've found ways to sort of work around that. But they may not always eat the seeds because they know that those are quite toxic, and in some situations they will potentially be very harmful to the animal if the animal eats the seeds. The goal of the fruit of a plant is to be eaten by the animal and then be passed out, right, in the stool to fertilize the next generation of plant.
I guess first we should talk about how coffee is made. It is the seed of the coffee cherry, and anyone with a background in inflammatory plant foods understands that seeds tend to be the highest in anti-nutrients because that seed wants to survive the digestive tract, be implanted in the fecal matter, and grow into a tree. That's what nature intended it to do.
Now, yeah, if you go on Wikipedia and look up coffee, it will say coffee is from the coffee cherry. But I had never heard anyone else mention this, let alone another carnivore dieter in this context of anti-nutrients.
This one is really critical. This is really interesting. This is about eating nose to tail in the animal. And this is a really important evolutionary fact. Our ancestors did not just eat ribeye or tenderloin when they killed an animal. They ate the heart, they ate the lungs, they ate the liver, which is super nutritious, and they ate the brain, and they ate the skin.
The requirement is that you consume the whole animal and that it's high quality. So if you're consuming conventionally raised beef ribeye steaks, you're not getting the vitamins you need, whereas if you consume a whole wild mackerel, roe included, that's where you get your complete nutrition. So to achieve this, you could do research, and like I said, you could find out, okay, what foods have what fat-soluble vitamins, and how do I get all of them in high amounts. You could do that, or you could eat nose to tail, which is just consuming all parts of the animal. If you buy some mackerel at the supermarket, don't have them gut the fish, keep the guts, eat the whole fish, all of it. Obviously, most people don't want to do that, and foods like salmon roe, which are nutritionally complete, can be supplements to the diet. But those, as I said, require that precursor knowledge of what's in it. So, yeah, you could supplement cod liver oil.
Yes, some people know about nose to tail, but not in the carnivore community. I've been the only person really advocating this for any period of time.
If you're eating seafood, you're going to be getting DHA. If you don't want to eat seafood, you can eat egg yolks. Liver has some omega-3 fatty acids, but you need to think about this as well in your diet.
Fatty acid profile, and again, we're mainly looking at DHA, and there is a small amount of DHA in liver, 84 milligrams. Nobody knows liver has DHA. This was a real red flag to me. I use a German nutrient database that no one else found out about outside of my YouTube channel. If you Google liver DHA, there is no data. You couldn't find it.
Eating an animal nose to tail provides all the nutrients we need in the most highly bioavailable forms without plants and their associated toxins.
Anything you want, this food has it in its most bioavailable form. Of that 65 to 70% animal foods was where we got all of our nutrients and vitamins that we needed for optimal health. Our omega-3 fatty acids, our vitamins A, our fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. All those are from animal foods, and they are contained in animal foods in their most bioavailable forms.
I've never heard anyone use this terminology before, and it really started to aggravate me. He's essentially ripping off my videos.
People don't generally like the taste of liver. Some people can tolerate it, not everybody can. I make liver jerky, which helps with the texture of the liver, and I can end up eating as much as I want when I do it that way. When I tried to cook it regularly, the texture was just too much for me, and I couldn't eat it.
What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to slice it thin and dehydrate it at a low temperature and make it into jerky so that I don't have to like thaw it out every day. All I have to do is I just take a piece of liver jerky and chew on it when I'm cooking my steak on the grill. And that's the main reason I like making this.
Now, liver jerky is not too popular, and considering he saw all of these other things on my YouTube channel and mentioned them, I'm assuming he got that idea from me as well. The terminology he uses is awfully similar.
Liver and kidney are sort of similar in their micronutrient composition. I think of heart as like a muscle. If you like heart, you can eat heart. It has a little more coenzyme Q10 than peripheral muscle meat, but I see heart as muscle meat and liver and kidney as probably the key organs that will complement the muscle meat.
Up until I was reading that info about the kidneys, I really prized liver as one of the only organs you should eat, and as well as brain. Like I used to always say, hey, get some liver and brain if you have to choose two organs, but you know, kidney really comes close to liver in a lot of the vitamins.
Oh yeah, I wonder where he got that idea, that liver and kidney are two of the highest micronutrient organs. That's such a coincidence. I think the same thing. I think liver and kidney are two great sources of nutrition.
So beta-carotene is the precursor to retinol, a form of vitamin A, and retinol is found in huge concentrations in the liver. Are you talking about flavonoids?
Yeah.
So the carotenoids, the beta-carotene is not a molecule that humans use. We use enzymes like BCMO, for instance. People can have single nucleotide polymorphisms in BCMO, which inhibit or decrease the efficiency with which they convert a beta-carotene, which is the plant precursor to vitamin A, into the retinol form of vitamin A, which is what we use in our bodies. But if you look at animals, and this is sort of what I was saying earlier, animals provide all the nutrients a human needs in the most highly bioavailable forms.
There are two common non-synonymous single nucleotide polymorphisms with genetic variability that result in a 70% decrease in absorption. This pretty much says that a certain percentage of the population cannot convert carotene to vitamin A. That literally says, well, X% of the population needs to get vitamin A, retinoic acid from animal foods. If Paul Saladino did his own research, he would actually know that animal fat can have both carotene and retinol.
Why do you like salmon roe so much, by the way? You brought like cans and cans of that stuff.
I love salmon roe. So I've talked about this on my Instagram and my YouTube. One of the interesting things about humans is that we cannot make omega-3 fatty acids, and we also can't make many omega-6 fatty acids. But
omega-3 fatty acids are essential fatty acids that are required by the human body. They must be obtained by diet because our bodies are unable to make them.
We need omega-3 fatty acids, and this is probably something that many people are familiar with. But the cool thing about salmon roe is that the omega-3 fatty acids in salmon roe, which are primarily DHA, are in the phospholipid form, which has been shown, at least in rodent models, to cross the blood-brain barrier much more efficiently than triglyceride or ethyl ester forms of omega-3s.
Mice that were given identical doses of EPA and DHA in either phospholipid, triglyceride, or ethyl ester form had EPA and DHA plasma concentrations that were highest from those in phospholipid form, followed by triglyceride form, and then lastly by ethyl ester form. The process of molecular distillation involves taking the omega-3 fatty acids which are in triglyceride form, meaning 3 fatty acids bound to a glycerol backbone, and converting it into an ethyl ester form, which involves removing that glycerol backbone and replacing it with an ethanol backbone. After the process of molecular distillation, the omega-3 fatty acids can be reesterified into their triglyceride form. However, most fish oil supplements on the market contain the omega-3 fatty acids in their ethyl ester form, which is unfortunate because that's less bioavailable than the omega-3 fatty acids found in triglyceride form.
Which you'd find in most fish oil capsules. That's triglyceride or ethyl ester.
So the two sources that I'm aware of phospholipid-derived DHA are krill oil and salmon roe.
Krill oil, and krill oil, and krill oil.
Salmon roe.
Dr. Rhonda Patrick here. Today I'm making some salmon roe stacks. Many of you may know I'm a huge fan of salmon roe because it contains the omega-3 fatty acid DHA in phospholipid form.
Guess he hasn't been stealing from just me. Dr. Rhonda Patrick is another contributor to his dietary knowledge. If he actually did his own research, he would know that DHA in the phospholipid form is also contained in brain tissue, so you could technically eat animal brains as well. He also didn't know that salmon roe has vitamin C, despite eating plenty of it. Paul, you should have watched more of my videos. His idea on piperine and sulforaphane is something that originates from Dr. Michael Greger, the vegan overlord, the string bean god, the man himself, the ghoul, the skeleton, Dr. Michael Greger. And this was adopted by Dr. Rhonda Patrick, so we can assume that he got his ideas on DHA phospholipid, sulforaphane, and piperine from Dr. Rhonda Patrick. And his whole methionine and glycine concept is from Chris Masterjohn, and Chris Masterjohn is a very underappreciated person in this whole dietary community. So guys, definitely go check out Chris's stuff. He has a lot of great work on things like methionine and glycine and vitamin K2 and deserves a lot more credit. On that Ben Greenfield podcast, he also constantly mentioned indigenous groups and ancestral wisdom, something I always say and credit Weston Price for. He's taking a page out of my playbook. Does this guy have any ideas of his own? He adds his research and understanding of metabolism to make it sound like his own idea. I have worked so hard for this, to build myself up and create my own concepts of nutrition, and he is just ripping them off with his MD credentials as a front. The timeline is perfect. The videos of mine that he watched were several months older than his YouTube channel. This modern culture has turned into an appeal to authority. Always listen to doctors. It's evident that people like Dr. Josh Axe and Dr. Oz steal other people's information and rebrand it with their credentials. On to his concepts and why they are incorrect. Piperine in black pepper may inhibit certain genes and enzymes, but the overarching thing here is that every indigenous group consumed wild plant foods that have similar anti-nutrient compounds, eliciting comparable hormetic effects. Small doses of negative things that end up aiding us in the long term. And the data on piperine is not definitive. You can find studies suggesting piperine improves metabolic syndrome and is anti-cancer. Showing an inhibitory mechanism without the end result doesn't answer a lot of questions. Methionine to glycine ratio is insignificant on an adequate fat intake. Shellfish, oysters, liver, salmon roe also have 2 to 3 times the glycine than methionine. Did this guy even look at a nutrient database? It would be an issue if you ate outside of indigenous macronutrient requirements, which are 80% fat and 20% protein. People that are following primarily muscle meat-based carnivore diets might run into this issue. But, Paul, if you actually finished reading that book you constantly referenced, The Fat of the Land, you would actually know that these indigenous groups consumed 80% of their calories from fat and 20% of their calories from protein. If you read that book, you would also know that your theory on calcium is wrong. Paul constantly mentions that they chewed bones in this book. But there are Eskimos who live practically exclusively on seal their whole lives, and yet there is no indication while they live that they are less healthy than the caribou eaters, nor do their skeletons show a lack of calcium. Thus, calcium deficiency is as absent from those meat eaters who practically never eat bones as from those who eat them nearly every day of their lives. But why can't Paul give me credit? He gives Ted Naiman, another doctor, credit, but he doesn't credit Dr. Rhonda Patrick. I think Paul is afraid of people connecting the things he is saying to these other people and having them realize that he has nothing to offer himself. Paul, I understand. You want to establish yourself and set up a practice, whatever it may be. But this is not the way to do it. This guy is still in his residency, and he's been on the carnivore diet for 5 months. Just because you put the letters MD in front of your name doesn't mean you can rip off everyone else's information and use your snakeskin suit as a front. But how did Paul Saladino get to this point? He went to a meetup and introduced himself to Sean Baker. Ended up getting himself on Sean Baker's podcast, Human Performance Outliers, and has slowly been gaining traction. This guy is a snake, and he had a game plan this whole time. I may not be able to convey myself as what's going on in my head most of the time, but all of my concepts are something I've worked very hard to develop. I think Paul is beyond unprofessional, and it's very clear he sees an opportunity in the carnivore movement, but there are quite a few people who are ahead of Paul in line, and I think I'm near the front of that line. That's why Paul is ripping off my information. I'm sorry to bring this to you guys, but this upset me beyond belief. I haven't slept in like the past 3 days. I've been plagiarized in the past to various degrees, but not to this degree, and certainly not in the carnivore field. He's essentially stealing my life work and trying to establish himself as a carnivore expert with it. And he's stealing stuff from other people as well. I've personally given credit to everyone that's helped me along this journey. Paul Chek, Weston Price, Nora Gagaudis, they all got me started on this movement. But these concepts Paul is talking about are from my 7 years of hard work. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys would like to support the channel, please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, share the video if you can. Down below is my Patreon, a great way to support the channel, as well as get personalized one-on-one question support. Down below is also my Amazon shop. I have various things I use in my day-to-day life, from cookware to salt. We recently started carnivoreforum.com, as well as my podcast, Perfected Health. All of those links, guys, down in the comments below. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. Drop me a follow if you're on social media. If you do want to reach out to me for one-on-one consultations, my website, frank-tufano.com or frank-a-tufano@gmail.com is how you can contact me directly. You guys enjoy the rest of your week.
You guys smell that? It smells like there's a rat in my steakhouse, but I thought rats liked cheese. It's 3 a.m. and I'm losing sleep because I can feel this rat scratching my eyes out. Tom Bilyeu is an American entrepreneur, best known as the co-founder of Quest Nutrition, who has a very large audience, well over 1 million followers. I was listening to a recent podcast of his, and they say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And boy, am I feeling flattered by a freshly minted MD, no less. And this MD is doing very well for himself. He now has an affiliate with White Oak Pastures, claiming to be supporting the environment. I find it great that General Mills was kind enough to fund a study for White Oak Pastures. It's even better that General Mills beat their lawsuits against the use of glyphosate in their food products. You know what's more amazing? That White Oak Pastures was a conventional feedlot back in the 90s, but now they're selling you grass-fed beef. I can't wait to buy my formerly feedlot beef from General Mills. We're going to take a look at a couple of clips. Then I'm going to show the clip from a previous video I had made, then a brief explanation of what happened.
This is an urban legend,
Really?
urban myth. Yeah, so there's never been a case report of vitamin A toxicity from eating food. There have been case reports of vitamin A toxicity, people taking vitamin A palmitate supplement, but you can eat a pretty decent amount of liver per day and not have vitamin A toxicity.
And with the lack of evidence in case studies, as well as, raw paleo people and carnivore dieters consuming pounds and pounds of liver without having any problems, I'm led to believe that those specific cases are heavy metal toxicity. Now, what can we learn from actual cases of hypervitaminosis A? And
All of these occurred in supplemental plant-based form, specifically retinol palmitate. And
this might be the most blatant, direct quote. Most of the other quotes, he changed the verbiage slightly, but this was practically word for word. I guess he doesn't understand it enough to make his own sentence.
The other thing is the corn they're feeding them is sprayed with atrazine, which is this lipid-soluble toxin. And atrazine is part of a family of compounds called xenoestrogens. And these are compounds that can affect our hormones, specifically estrogen, by mimicking estrogen in the human body.
Feedlot meat is also loaded with xenoestrogens from herbicides that are used on grain and even sometimes grass. Atrazine is a xenoestrogenic herbicide and endocrine disruptor. Here is a visual of it causing ovaries to grow in a frog's testicles. This is great. How nice and convenient was it of me to make a video explaining what atrazine was just a few weeks before he was on this podcast.
We can go back 80,000 years and look at stable nitrogen isotope studies of collagen. So basically they look at different types of nitrogen in the bones of Neanderthal and Homo sapiens. And what they see is so much nitrogen, so the ratio of the nitrogen gives us a sense of what these people were eating.
Where did you get that study that did samples on collagen? And we can safely say that their main food source was meat. Oh, I know. This was from a video that I made several months ago on what a caveman's diet actually was. Coincidentally, he is making the same reference to cavemen using the exact same study I did in the exact same dietary community.
An availability equation. If I can go hunt a woolly mammoth and I can get a million, I mean, how many calories in a woolly mammoth? Like millions and millions of calories. It can feed the tribe for a week. Or I can go look for tubers. What am I going to do, right? There's no question what you're going to do in terms of calories and fat.
So, from a survival standpoint, from a procuring calories in nature standpoint, the amount of nutrition that one ruminant animal can give us is astounding. And imagine if this was, some of the larger wild game that we used to hunt in packs. Imagine a femur bone that's 3, 4, 5 times as big as this. The amount of marrow in one of those bones could feed your whole tribe for probably a day or two, and maybe even more. It's very clear when we experience these foods in their natural state, try to process them, and even taste them when they're raw, this is the diet that humans are supposed to be following. Because fruits and vegetables, these plant foods, weren't exactly excellent sources of calories.
His verbiage is almost identical to mine, twisting it slightly, but he still says things in the order that I said them in my video.
If you look at the bioavailability and the presence of vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, or the micronutrients, calcium, zinc, selenium, manganese, or the DHA and EPA, animal foods are the richest source. They're the best multivitamin we've ever encountered.
Kidney has all of the nutrients your body needs. The water-soluble B and C vitamins, all of the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, K2, all of the minerals, elements, and essential fatty acids that your body needs. When we talk about nutrients, we mean vitamins, minerals, elements, and fatty acids. What most people don't understand is that we need to consume animal foods in order to get all of the vitamins, minerals, elements, and fatty acids that our bodies need to thrive. Again, almost identical verbiage, same sequence. I've been saying this for years in my videos, and no one mentioning him blatantly ripping off my motto is discouraging.
And so we can use them as survival food, kind of hearkening back to our ancestry.
The food access, the resources, and the necessity of consuming grains from a caloric standpoint. Humans need to survive in nature, and if you're eating berries in the forest all day, it doesn't matter if you have unlimited access to berries, you will starve to death eating fruit.
I've never heard anyone else in the carnivore community outside of my own videos mention the lack of caloric availability in plant foods and the need for them for survival.
The stomach and the digestive system is an interesting story too. Again, this is conjectural, but we'll entertain it. If you look at the pH of the human stomach, it's actually so acidic, meaning low pH, it looks like carnivores. It doesn't look like an omnivore. The pH of an ape is about 4 or 5, I believe, and our pH is between 1 and 2.
But if you look at the stomach acidity of other animals, things become a bit unclear. That's why we have to look further into the digestive system. So over the course of a few minutes, he was explaining the digestive systems of humans versus herbivores, and the layout was identical to my video I did on carnivore versus herbivore digestion, specifically because of the order he mentioned things, from acidity to organ changes to brain size.
Do you eat raw eggs?
I do eat raw eggs.
That's
yolks.
scary. You're freaking me out.
So here's the thing with eggs. What we worry about with eggs is contamination of Campylobacter and Salmonella on the shell of the egg.
Correct.
The inside of the egg is generally sterile.
If you're buying eggs, if there was feces on the outside of the egg ground up into the meat, you're going to have an issue there. Now he talks about Campylobacter and Salmonella being a cross-contamination issue on eggs 1 week after I do a video on raw meat safety saying the exact same thing.
For instance, if you look at cabbage, it's a good example. Cabbage is a brassica vegetable derived from ancestral or ancient mustard. People believe that mustard was the original, it's this mustard family. So the mustard plant is the same genus or as, it's the brassica. So it's the same genus as kale, cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, all these brassica vegetables.
But cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, arugula, bok choy, watercress, all of these originate from one vegetable at the top of the brassica family. So if we could say that, well, there are dozens of vegetables that we've literally never consumed before, they are all a result of modern agriculture, is this something we should actually be doing? And when you look at the nutrient content of these foods, considering the availability, it definitely leaves something to be desired. So it's relatively safe to say that
I find it crazy that every single nutrition topic this guy talks about is a concept from one of my videos. The way he reiterates the same context in a conversation, it becomes very clear what's going on.
The brain and the bone marrow would have been, I think, things that we prize the most.
Bone marrow in particular is something that I really enjoy the taste of, and it is a food that was prized by our ancestors and one of their favorite parts of the animal.
Brain is a delicacy in many countries because it's rich in nutrients. I mean, think about where the DHA goes. Here, that's what we use to make it. And think about all the potentially unique factors in the brain.
Is there any truth to the belief that some indigenous people held, our ancestors, hunter-gatherers, native tribes, in eating certain parts of the animal to give you certain health properties? We know our brains are composed of cholesterol, DHA, omega-3 fatty acids, various vitamins and minerals, but if we consume an animal brain that has a similar nutrient profile to ourselves, wouldn't it make sense that we are nourishing that part of our body? This is another very obvious one. Took the exact quote I said and worded it just slightly differently. You know what's the funniest part about this whole thing? He denied ever watching any one of my YouTube videos, having the nerve to say that he simply came up with these concepts on his own and explains them better. Yeah, apparently not if you have to copy me word for word. If he is willing to blatantly lie about that, what else is this person willing to lie about? Is his whole story made up? Is the whole carnivore diet story made up? Every single thing mentioned on that podcast about nutrition was ripped directly from my videos. In addition to this, I came up with the Perfected Health podcast a few months back. 1 week later, Rat Boy, hey guys, watch my Fundamental Health podcast. I can't make this shit up. Does he have any ideas of his own? All this man cares about is making money and promoting himself. He has made no educational videos on his YouTube channel. His sole purpose is to steal other people's information and use his connections to network and make himself look good on these large platforms. Not one word that comes out of his mouth is an original thought. The title of his book was stolen from Jason Fung. The Obesity Code, Unlocking the Secrets of Weight Loss. The Carnivore Code, Unlocking the Secrets to Optimal Health by Returning to Our Ancestral Diet. What really disgusted me was the cover of his book. His face split in half with his face and a lion. That was the exact idea I was going to use for my book. And I might have mentioned, that I was going to do that on a live stream at one point or another, or even the illustrators that reached out to me could have been secretly working for him. I don't really know, but it really disheartens me. In brighter news, Rat Boy is actually moving to San Diego so he can surf more. Yet I'm here, killing myself the past 3 years making YouTube videos, trying to improve people's health, helping my mentally disabled sister lose weight, helping my mother who had many health problems feel better, and trying to help my father. And this scum of the earth comes in, is worth millions of dollars, and he's using my information. And until I leave this planet, I will do everything in my power to make this man feel my pain, regardless of how much it hurts my own success. I was going to try to be happy in this video, but out of all the struggles I've had in my life and how far I've come, for this to happen to me is my last straw. I wonder what the Washington State Medical Board would think about him using his medical credentials to consult people on the carnivore diet. And it seems like he would be practicing outside of the scope of his psychiatric residency. But hey, I guess if you follow a diet for 10 months and you watch a 26-year-old bartender's YouTube videos, that sure beats 12 years in medical school. If you want to actually learn about diet and nutrition, feel free to check out any of the videos that were plagiarized in this podcast, or you can pay this clown doctor $1,000 for a half-assed explanation of my videos. Perhaps maybe buy his book in several months for a complete transcription of my videos. Maybe you can even buy his $300 red lamp while you're at it. Oh, I guess someone has to pay for his Adderall prescription. He needs it to focus with all of the YouTube videos of mine that he's watching. Oh, and don't be surprised if my channel gets censored further or if this video gets a lot of dislikes. His daddy has a lot of money. God damn. God damn it. I haven't cried in I don't know how many years. I told myself I would never cry again in my life, and it really breaks my heart that I had to make this video. I told myself for 2, 3, 4 months I wasn't gonna make this video, and it's been eating away at me. I couldn't do it anymore. I'm sorry, guys. Fraud. Wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain. I couldn't think of a more perfect word for Mr. Paul Saladino, or should we say Shiladino. And I guess you can say this about the other carnivores as well, as they are being paid to promote the carnivore diet. If you aren't aware of the continued plagiarism of my information, check out my past 2 videos, Copy Pasta Salad and Paul Saladino, the Carnivore Copycat. This guy has copied everything, including my book cover. Here is mine, here is his old one, then he switched over to this. Plus, the title of his book was ripped from Dr. Jason Fung's book, The Obesity Code. Sounds awfully familiar to me. He copied the name of my podcast, Mind Being Perfected Health. 1 week later, he comes out with Fundamental Health. And he's even promoting a deodorant. I started Frankie's Naturals over a year ago, and these corporate chills just steal ideas and prop them up with millions of dollars. Paul, I have a better book cover idea for you.
Wait till you see the... No. Look at the top of his head. Look at his lips.
Some of you guys suggested I plant fake information in one of my videos to prove he copies me, and I did just that. On March 7th, I made a video discussing how salmon roe contains vitamin C, and once you do a fair bit of research on raw animal foods, you'll understand that most of them have anti-scorbutic properties in a fresh raw state. This is 10 times higher in certain organs and tissues, almost 10 times higher in liver and fish eggs. So if you were following a carnivore diet, you would likely get 2 to 3 times the amount of vitamin C. On March 14th, on the Ben Greenfield podcast, Paul Saladino does not mention that salmon roe has vitamin C when questioned about it, despite spending most of the podcast talking about salmon roe.
Vitamin C would probably be the only one that I can think of that maybe you can think of others that people would say, oh, you can only get that from plants. And that's not true. If you look at liver, there's actually quite a good amount of vitamin C in liver, and there's a good amount in brain as well. And if you look at the Inuit, there's a good amount in the whale blubber skin. And so
again, eat nose to tail.
If you eat nose to tail, you'll get plenty of vitamin C.
Carotenoids?
On March 26th, I called out Paul Saladino and Ben Greenfield that they were stuffing their faces with salmon roe without knowing it had vitamin C. He clearly didn't know that salmon roe contains vitamin C, otherwise he would have mentioned it.
Ben Greenfield asked Paul what foods had vitamin C, and they had both stuffed their faces with salmon roe this morning, but they didn't mention that salmon roe has vitamin C. So if Paul was actually doing his own research on why salmon roe is good for you, he would have saw that it had vitamin C because he would have seen it on a nutrient database. But Paul didn't know that because he didn't watch the video where I mentioned salmon roe has vitamin C.
Oh, guess what? On April 4th, Paul suddenly knows salmon roe has vitamin C in a discussion conveniently after I called him out on it.
You know, if you're eating any liver, you're probably getting enough vitamin C. And then there are other foods that also have vitamin C from the animal. I've talked about salmon roe has a little bit of vitamin C.
And on April 6th, I revealed that I lied. Or, well, I wasn't specific. Salmon roe will have vitamin C if it's not salted. Paul and Ben were consuming salmon caviar, aka salted fish roe. When you salt or preserve a food, you reduce the anti-scorbutic properties, if not remove them altogether. If Paul actually did his own research on vitamin C, instead of just parroting me and watching my videos, he might have known this.
Paul said in a conversation with Bart K that salmon roe has vitamin C, and I paged him. I put that information in a video intentionally. In a video where I corrected Paul Saladino, where I said he was a crook, I said that, by the way, Paul, salmon roe has vitamin C. What I didn't mention was that if you salt and cure salmon roe, you remove the anti-scorbutic properties. So salmon caviar doesn't have vitamin C. So I kind of intentionally made it so Paul was spreading incorrect information. I planted something that sounded correct, but it wasn't, which goes to show that Paul didn't do his research.
Claims to be the leading authority on the science and application of the carnivore diet. Paul, how is that possible if you were stuffing your face with spinach less than 2 years ago? Oh wait, I know. You just get a bunch of other industry shills to prop you up. Mark Sisson, Ben Greenfield, Mercola, Dave Asprey, Rob Wolf. So I guess all of these people support plagiarism just so they can keep lining their pockets with the money of the sheeple. You know what's strange? Many of the other carnivore shills are ex-vegans as well. Bobby's Perspective, Primal Edge Health, Raw Alignment, clearly getting paid to switch over to the new trend. I've spent over 7 years now researching and experimenting on this diet, yet I've had no such podcaster opportunities. Paul, it must be nice to live a privileged life and travel for 6 years while someone else does the work for you. Shit, if I knew I could have gone on vacation for 6 years instead of working myself half to death, why didn't someone tell me? Oh, it's because I don't have free connections. Paul, were you just sent from Big Collagen? I'm a bit confused because you were sprinkling collagen powder on your salads just over a year and a half ago, but now you prefer to sprinkle collagen powder on your steaks? You started the carnivore diet just over a year ago, and 1 month after you started, you were already making videos about how to do the diet right. Maybe you should tell your fanboys to stop choking down collagen and eggshells if you flip-flop diets this often. Paul Saladino was recently on The Doctors with the Shill Sisters. And if you can't tell this was a complete setup, you might need to get your IQ checked. Is it a conflict of interest if one of the sisters worked as Mr. Saladino's secretary? This is an awful coincidence. Is it criminal that this clown of a doctor charges $800 per hour to repeat Frank Tufano's free information? Yes, Paul Saladino, I know it sucks to not know half as much as me about the carnivore diet, to not be as smart as me in general, but you're still an intelligent guy that can help a lot of people. Or, I'll take that back. Maybe you're not intelligent. Maybe you're just really good at memorizing, plagiarizing information. Too bad you're in it for all the wrong reasons. I'm not going anywhere, and I will continue to expose the shills until everyone sees how ugly they are on the inside. For someone like myself to be treated like this is nothing short of evil. I spend every waking moment of my day focused on things to help other people. Every single thing I do has that end goal, and all I'm met with is these degenerates stealing my ideas and twisting the message. Then they ban me from all of the carnivore forums and social media pages to hide the truth. How crazy is it that these elites can prop someone up so quickly in the span of a year? Just throw a freshly minted doctor on some podcasts, put him in front of a large audience with someone else's information. This society is disgusting, especially you YouTube who are taking his side for a chance at a few thousand subscribers. You picked the losing side. And the fact that not one person took the side of Frankie Boy, the fact that no vegans are touching this with a 10-foot pole is the proof that everyone is special interest funded. They are being paid to say the words coming out of their mouth. So you should not support them, you should not trust them, and anyone else who supports them is not to be trusted as well. It's not too late to apologize, Paul. Do you really want the man who copied Frank Tufano written on your tombstone? I guess corporate shill is already going to be etched there anyway, so I guess you don't really care at this point. Thank you guys for joining me. Unfortunately, this has to keep happening because these people keep stealing my information, ignoring me, and all sorts of nasty corporate tactics. So, guys, please share the video. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe, like the video. If you'd like to support me further, you can check out my book, The Ancestral Indigenous Diet. Or if you want a new version of that, I think Paul has a book coming out in a week or two. But if you want the original source of information, definitely buy my book down in the description. You can go to Frankie's Free Range Meat. If you want an actually good deodorant product, go to Frankie's Naturals, not some nonsense packaged in plastic that he's promoting. And you can also go to frank-tufano.com for affordable dietary and nutrition consultations that you don't have to reverse mortgage your house for. So thanks again for joining me, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. At the end of the day, talent always wins. And all you guys are losing your hair, so I guess that's another downside of being a dirty, Waldorf liar. Almost forgot, guys. The craziest thing about all of this, the only reason I'm making these videos, is because he didn't mention my name. How hard is it to credit someone when you're using their information? Why wouldn't you do that? Oh yeah, Frank Tufano's great, 7-year carnivore, does a lot of research. Is it because you don't want people to know where you got the information from? Possibly. Only thing that makes sense to me. Less than 2 years ago, Paul Saladino, aka Rat Boy, and we could also call him Punk Shiladino, was promoting a vegan diet with a mouthful of spinach. After no more than a year of plagiarizing Frank Tufano, as well as several others, he has copied his way onto the Joe Rogan Experience, a shill's wet dream. Anything that comes out of this clown's mouth can be found from someone else. If he says it, someone else had the idea before him. Because of this, I am offering monetary reward for any of you that post or share the truth about this scumbag. Just email me and I will PayPal you, several dollars per comment or share. In fact, go over to that podcast right now and post a comment for Frankie Boy. If you need evidence, I've made 3 videos now about Paul Saladino plagiarizing my information. Those other people, including Rhonda Patrick, Chris Masterjohn, Ray Pete, Jason Fung. Paul has no ideas of his own, and you will always find anything he has to say from someone else. Plus, he goes along with the mainstream narrative on you know what. That's keeping us locked inside. Paul being a doctor still dumbfounds me because I can't imagine how they didn't find his plagiarism at some point throughout his many years of medical school. Now he has cut his teeth, learned the basics, and advanced knowledge of the carnivore diet from my YouTube videos. There are direct instances of word-for-word plagiarism on different podcasts and videos that I've went over in the past, but I'll list some of the obvious stuff. And to be very clear, guys, plagiarism is simply not crediting the person. Like, he could have said all of those things and just mentioned my name, but no, he wanted to pass it off as his own high and mighty intelligence. Intelligence is created from partially ideas from other people and your own creativity. But if you don't have your own creativity, you're just copying people, which is what he's doing. My podcast name, I came up with the Perfected Health Podcast. 1 week later, he has the Fundamental Health Podcast. Book cover of myself split in half, he does the same thing, and actually changed his book cover from the original one because of all the blowback he got for copying me, the title of which he copied from Jason Fung's book, The Obesity Code. I've had a hygiene company for years, Frankie's Naturals. Oh look, he's suddenly selling crap garbage from Native Deodorant. I sell the most affordable, quality grass-fed meats online. He's selling you pus-filled testicles from various companies. I launched my supplement line. 2 months later, what a surprise, he's selling the same supplements. And he copied the logo of his supplements from Epic Bone Broth. He sees me eat honey on a day of eating video. He joins the Honey Diet Council. I make a video on histamine intolerance. He discovers the same solution 2 months later. And that's just the stuff I found out about. Who knows how much of my stuff he's copied? Who knows about these other people who for some reason won't stand up for themselves? It's very clear his only motive is money. Who else would be okay with stealing from everyone whilst at the same time having every opportunity handed to him? But that's what these scumbag elite people do. They steal people's ideas and use their connections, their higher up media influence to twist the message, then make a ton of money selling their bullshit products. I brought the knowledge and ideas of nutrient density to the carnivore community, preached about it for years. Then they banned me from all carnivore forums, all media platforms, and put this hack doctor in my place with my ideas and my information. Just to cover his supplement company briefly, because it's a comical astroturfing operation. I was laughing. I can't even believe he's making money on this. He's working with Ancestral Supplements. They produce his product, slap his label on it, and charge 20 more bucks for it. It's identical to their products, it's just more expensive. I was actually offered a similar deal by the owner of that company, but I declined it because they were selling organ combinations that don't actually work, such as blood, bones, and collagen. Plus, they use liver as a filler and everything, and are probably giving people vitamin A toxicity to some degree. On top of this complete dirtbag sued me for slandering him, and I'm out $10,000 in lawyer fees. He did lose the case because he's an idiot and it was a bullshit case, but I still spent a large portion of my savings because of this asshat. You guys probably remember like 6-7 months back I was looking at replacing this piece of junk for Taurus, and that's where that money went. I may do a whole video on that court case if you guys would like to hear it, but why is Ratboy able to get away with all of this? These elite people, what they have in common is they're all members of secret societies, and most of them are parasites, making money off of people as opposed to providing a service to people. And he's basically a high-level government agent for the carnivore diet. He's making a bunch of other secret society members a lot of money. It's partially why he doesn't really own anything himself. He's always vouching for other people, and he gets a cut. That's why he's so popular, because he agrees to make other people money. Promoting his garbage products, collagen powder waste, conventional eggshells under the guise of health. They don't give a shit if you get a little sick from a supplement. The whole carnivore diet has been a high-level plan by elite secret society members to pad their bank accounts, sell feedlot meats, sell animal products. If you've noticed, all carnivore influencers are either ex-military, ex-vegan, and then there's like one celebrity. Of course, they aren't going to rat each other out. It's like asking a cop to put himself in jail and stop getting paid his salary. There's no reason he would do it. These people are getting paid a lot of money. They're famous. They have a great family life. They just have to hop in front of a camera and lie for 10 minutes a day. And that's all they have to do. If you've noticed, these people show no aspects of their personal life. They don't do days of eating. They don't do anything that I do on my channel. They put no effort into it, and they just get propped up on these platforms because they're selling garbage. What I find hilarious is all of you gang stalkers harassing my personal life, when all I've done is critique the products they sell and them stealing my information as well as their incorrect information. And then you guys attack me for being gay, which I'm not, and other aspects of my personal life. But this dude is dancing in the gym with a bunch of hairy, shirtless apes. Paul's hanging out with Aubrey Marcus, who's a known man lover, and the three of them are probably sweating in Joe Rogan's sauna. Or four of them. Paul repeated a bunch of my information on the Ben Greenfield podcast, and Ben does have some peculiar friends as well as clothing choices.
All right, here we go. Ben Greenfield.
Yo.
Come on in, my man.
Luke Story.
Good to see you, bro.
You too, man.
Right on.
How you doing?
Great.
Good.
All right, so.
Cool place.
Thanks, dude.
You guys can call me gay all you want. I've never done anything half as gay as that. As much as I don't like being in this position, I have to do my best to defend myself and point this out, because a lot of the information he's taken, all of these ideas are stuff I've worked for years for. I've spent most of my professional life creating those ideas, and for someone just to take them from me and put them on a platform, not understanding them, to sell his garbage is really discouraging. And the only reason I didn't want to make this video is because this guy has hundreds, literally hundreds of social media workers that are monitoring comments, making sure he doesn't get called out for this stuff, making sure no one mentions my name on this stuff. So it might be very difficult, and it's also very possible that none of this gets exposed. Who knows if someone helps me out and picks this up, but the past 3 times I called this guy out, no one seemed to care. And I've told you guys many times about why I'm here. I don't care about money. I don't care about views. Obviously, this guy does if he's suing me to try to shut me up. And if what I was telling wasn't the truth, why would he sue me? But if someone else is going to use my ideas, try to steal my audience, my prospective audience, sell their fake bull crap without knowing half as much about nutrition, I have to say something about it. And this is one of the reasons I will probably be leaving the carnivore diet very soon. I mean, there's no point now. I've already published as much information as anyone could want, and they have arguably years and years and years of information to copy. But it disgusts me to even be associated with these people anymore. Every other video I make, I see someone else spouting the same exact words 2-3 months later, except they're getting hundreds of thousands of views, selling snake oil. No one seems to remember Frank Tufano, or possibly they're removing the comments of people mentioning me. And these opportunities have been stolen from me. And that, combined with the greed, the lawsuits against me, is inhibiting my ability to make as many people as happy and healthy as possible. So one thing that's going to be necessary over the next few months, year or two, is to make sure everyone knows who Paul Saladino really is and get this guy to work a real job. What's going on? How are you guys today? So I'm pretty unhappy to do this podcast. I'd rather just ignore it. At least that is review Paul Saladino's recent appearance on Joe Rogan. But since a lot of people are probably going to bring it up due to Joe Rogan's popularity, I feel like I need to address it again. And despite making 3 videos already in the past, maybe even 4, explaining how this guy has plagiarized my information since he started the carnivore diet back sometime in 2019. So throughout this podcast, I'm going to try to explain things that I believe he's repeated from my channel. So what I'll do is I'll pause the video. I'll say like, okay, I think I said this in this video, which is probably X amount of months ago. So if you guys do want to make some money and help me out at the same time, if you want to try to find all of the stuff that I'm going to possibly timestamp, then we could do like a lump sum of payment for everything. Or if you guys just find the plagiarism on an individual basis, we can do some type of commission. You guys can reach out to me. Just, let me know how much time you took. Let me know what you think is fair. And before we jump into this podcast, there's just two things to keep in mind real quick with the agendas and things that people are saying against me. And actually there's three. So the two that have been more present have been just calling me crazy, which is a very popular one. And there's also people saying that I don't own information. But the definition of plagiarism is simply like copying someone else's ideas without giving them credit for it. So to say that I don't own information might be correct on one hand, but in a professional atmosphere where you do nutritional research, if you get an idea from someone, you always give them credit for it. And I've always done that in every single video on my channel. More recently, though, these people are saying, welcome to capitalism. They're just telling me to accept it. And I think the reason they're telling me to accept it is because they really want me to stop calling this guy out on his nonsense because it's compromising the money these people are making. So what we're going to do is start the podcast. It's about 3 hours long. So I think what we're going to have to do is put it on 1.5 speed. And hopefully that's not too fast. It might be too fast, but you guys might want to buckle down for a couple hours, or we're going to or just watch it later.
Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out. Rain by day, Joe Rogan Podcast.
Yeah, fuck this asshole, 100%. So the two things things he's copied from my channel so far is one, meat-based diet, which is just in the title of my book. And if so what you would probably want to search for on my channel is maybe even the video I did introducing my book to my channel where I said whole foods meat-based diet or whole foods animal-based diet. The point is I did a take on the whole food. I was the first person to contrast the whole foods plant-based nonsense with whole foods meat-based, whole foods animal-based nonsense. And the second thing that he's done is what he's saying now. So let's just repeat that real quick because my brain is fried today.
Isothiocyanate compounds that are inhibiting the absorption, or at least the borophane can be beneficial because it turns on our antioxidant.
So basically, he's saying that you don't need dietary hormesis because the hormesis in our environment is already high enough. And that's exactly the point of my video that I talked about it. So I'm just trying to, I don't remember which video I talked about hormesis or hormetic effects of foods. It might have been in a fasting video, but it was more likely on a live stream that was taken down, so you guys probably won't be able to find that. Because I don't think I've done a video specifically on hormesis, but back when the snake diet guy was talking about hormesis, hormetic effects of food, and when hormesis was really big, it might have been on the Perfected Health podcast that I did. Oh, you know what it was probably on? I did the Perfected Health podcast with Simland, and I might have actually taken that podcast down. Maybe if I care, I'll go look through it later. But I basically said the same thing. You don't need dietary hormesis because we already have environmental hormesis. So he copied the talking point of that directly from my channel. Yeah, I'm already pissed. The first 15 minutes of this podcast has been basically them going in depth on a point I made, and it was either on a live stream. As I said, that Simland podcast was probably it, where we spoke about hormesis. Let me bring it up right now, actually. I took a lot of my podcasts down because I found out afterwards that these people were against me. Okay, so here it is. This is the podcast streamed April 1st, 2019. This was actually streamed live. This is probably where we spoke about the hormesis. So, this guy's literally copying stuff from over a year ago on my channel, hoping that I don't remember it. This is literally a year and a half ago, and he's copying talking points that,
Exercise.
You're turning on the exact same system in your body.
But what about the
I feel like the whole podcast was scripted. Oh, no, the JRE pod, we could talk about that. We could talk about how the podcast is scripted, how these people are all shills in one way, and I don't want to start talking about the groups they're in and the clubs they're part of, because then that's where I compromise even being on any type of platform. But yes, to answer your question, yes, it's all scripted, it's all set up. But if you accept that stuff and you understand that stuff, then life gets very boring when you start realizing that pretty much everything is fake.
Vitamins that you're getting from plants. I mean,
Right.
there are
The point here today isn't to have to, because in order to get people to understand that, you'd have to explain so much. The point here today is just to point out the plagiarism, and maybe we won't even point out what he's incorrect on. I'll have to do a whole separate video on that. It depends on how many talking points there are here. And honestly, I'm assuming he's not going to be incorrect on a lot of things because he just copies my information. Although he hasn't taken some things I've said recently about plant foods, how soluble fiber and just fiber in general can be very, very beneficial for gut motility as well as detoxing the liver. This is funny because I did a video where I was like debunking that a lot of the carnivores maybe a year or so ago were saying like, oh well, you don't need to eat liver because they fed the liver to the dogs, which is actually another quote from this book. But I posted this specific quote, exact caption from this book on my channel multiple times, on Twitter multiple times. So it's very likely that if he doesn't start quoting this book multiple times, I mean, let's see if all the quotes he's taken from this book are the ones I posted on my Twitter. Let me see if I can find it. Actually, hold on. Twitter, Frank Tufano, Fat of the Land. It's probably from a year ago. No, this guy's a fucking comedian, man. It's too fucking easy. I find this shit in 10 seconds. Frank Tufano, October 5th, 2018. This is actually over 2 years ago. I tagged Corn Faker and Joe Rogan in this tweet. So why did you take one quote from the Fat of Land about them feeding liver to dogs without mentioning the dozens of other references to the preference organs? So in October of 2018, this is the quote he's showing on the podcast right now. The centerpiece of my tweet. He literally mentioned the book and he still copied you? Yeah, because he copied the fucking quote from my Twitter. It is sad.
Disease. Oh, you don't
If he told the truth, they would say, oh, why don't you just have fucking Frank Tufano on the podcast instead of you?
see the row. So this is screenshot 1018.58. There we go. So if we look at chronic disease prevalence in America, it's clearly rising. It's a scary thought. So what is causing that, right?
That is a massive spike.
Like-
Look at that.
Before this ass hat starts talking about linoleic acid and vegetable seed oils, it's something I've focused on my channel over the past year or two. I've been making a lot of videos on it. I've made videos like vegetable seed oils are dangerous. I did a video explaining the true cause of heart disease, explaining its linoleic acid. And more recently, in the past few months, Ratboy has been grifting on the linoleic acid bandwagon. The idea that linoleic acid was the true cause of health problems, I mean, everyone knows vegetable seed oils are bad, but the person that actually introduced the mechanisms to me was Tucker Goodrich, and I actually did a podcast with him, so let me look that up. Perfected Health Podcast, Tucker Goodrich. So this was this was a while ago too. This was back in, well, yeah, 2019, but let's see what date it was on this. Welcome back. This was June of last year, so about a year and a half ago. He actually lives in Connecticut, so I drove over, met him in Connecticut. We had a little podcast with, you guys think I should cut the hair again? Do I look that much more handsome with short hair? Back to the Perfected Health podcast, ladies and gentlemen. This is episode 4. So this was basically him talking about linoleic acid and how vegetable seed oils are bad. And he was the person that introduced that idea to me, and then I researched it further on my own. So this is where he's likely getting the information from. Be crediting Tucker Goodrich as well as myself on this. Because the Tucker Goodrich goes into the Tucker Goodrich talks about the very scientific mechanisms of this, the really nitty gritty terms that you'll see that most people won't understand. I'm trying to remember some off the top of my head. Let me look. Actually, let me show you guys how much. Let me show you guys the research I do. It's a lot of stuff. You know, I have a lot of information on this stuff. So if we go to, I probably have, you know, linoleic. I definitely have a section here. How linoleic acid actually causes the heart disease. Maybe I skipped it here. I think it's higher up. Low, I think it's this one actually. Linoleic acid. Yeah, here it is. So this is basically the studies I use to explain linoleic acid. Plant oils or machine lubricants, hydrogenated oils, poison, cause oxidative stress. HDL Hood mechanism. If LDL particle contains linoleic acid, it oxidizes when it enters the endothelium. Human umbilical vein endothelial cells convert linoleic acid to Hood, which are oxidation and products of linoleic acid. Oxidized LDL is no longer... You know, I should take this down because these fuckers are going to screenshot it and just steal my research. Joe Rogan podcasts are scripted, but they have some excellent talking points because they plagiarize my YouTube channel.
It's disgusting. It makes you sad. It makes you sickened. And I was trying to figure out what...
Most of the time, these medical nutrition... I mean, this is a very boring podcast, but it's actually not as boring as the other ones because the creativity of their talking points are from my channel, which are things people haven't heard before because I came up with them myself.
Can I do? Like, would I be capable of killing an animal? I never killed an animal before. And then after I did, I went hunting with Steve Rinella on his television show. I shot a mule deer. We ate it over a fire. And I said right away...
You guys know why they're so into hunting, right? A bunch of dudes in the forest by themselves. Do I really have to fucking explain that? Why do you think they go hunting so much? You think they really like hunting that much? Or you think they like playing with each other in tents?
Away, I'm doing this.
Every single element of this is so fucking comical. He practices jujitsu. He likes rolling around with dudes. He goes hunting. He likes spending the fucking night in tents with dudes. He goes in fucking saunas with dudes. It's so fucking obvious. It's so ridiculous. They take shirtless pictures in the gym with each other. They work out half naked, sweating all over each other. It's so obvious what they're actually doing.
From now on, this is what I'm doing. Because it resonated, it made sense, it felt good. It was a very difficult thing to do. It took days and...
as much as I like to think I'm joking about it, honestly, it's not really that much of a joke.
Days of...
Fuck yourself. So since we've spent so much time on this podcast, I will we'll do 5-10 minutes of questions, then I'm going to go, guys. We've been live for 4.5 hours, and I haven't eaten anything today. I just have I still have to film tomorrow's video, so I have a bunch of work to do today. So if you guys have any more questions for a few minutes, let me know. Overall, as I've said several times about this podcast, the main goal of this is to hopefully pay someone to just show more of the plagiarism on this Joe Rogan podcast. There's definitely instances of direct plagiarism that I can go find myself that I know off the top of my head that I've mentioned. But honestly, I'm just so over this, and I really should try to go back through all of this, but in the past examples of his plagiarism, it hasn't been so evident. You know, this is, 3-hour podcast, and half of it is my ideas and creativity, at least. Are you going to reply to the Greg Doucette video? Did he do another video on me? I already replied to his first video. I think the video tomorrow, I might just talk about Rat Boy's lawsuit. Dang, he took all your credit and is making money on his book. I mean, I don't really care. These people are a bunch of fucking losers. It's just, it's just ridiculous how blatantly he's copied every single one of my ideas. I didn't think it would be that blatant and obvious. I would literally say what I thought he was going to say before he said it, because I said it in my past videos. Can you recommend a video about evolution? I wouldn't really look at evolution. I would read some videos about I would look up into secret societies and that type of stuff, and you'll understand that these people are hiding secrets of how the world actually originated. So instead of looking at how to debunk what we're currently told, try to look at what the truth actually is. So, throughout this podcast, I've mentioned where I think the content was from in my past videos. So, listen, I mean, if I paid someone $1,000, that's minimum wage. $10 an hour would be 100 hours. I mean, you could literally watch all of my videos for $1,000, right? And minimum wage in some places. If I paid, hypothetically, I have 600 to 700 videos on my channel. If each of them average 10 minutes long, that's about 100 hours of content, right? So if you actually watch through all of my videos on my channel, for $1,000, $1,500, if I paid someone to do the parallels, it would be worth it from a time perspective. The only question is, and the only problem is, I have a bunch of unlisted live streams, probably like 100 of them that are 2-3 hours long each. And to go through all of those and find the information in those, which is, there probably is plenty of information that he plagiarized from those, it's probably too much work. That's probably way too much work. So maybe make a video about Earthling. I mean, every video I make is just so suppressed and silenced now that it doesn't really matter. Yeah, 4 hours of streaming. We're going to wrap it up in a few minutes. If you guys have any more questions or anything you want me to answer. Generally speaking, most social media influencers, anyone that's reasonably popular, is going to be part of these groups of people, elite people that run everything. I don't want to watch all the videos of Rap Boy because I need both of your videos, therefore. No, you don't have to watch the videos of Rap Boy. You just have this podcast. All of this the plagiarism in this podcast is what we're talking about. Frank, what did you say about Honey to email you, right? I don't remember. Yeah, I basically just woke up and did this live stream, and then I have to and see how things go over the next month or 2 or 3. I say save your money and try to. How can I move forward if these people just copy every single thing I do? And this isn't like he plagiarized my information from a year or 2 ago and stopped. He's plagiarizing stuff that I'm saying last fucking week on Joe Rogan. He's plagiarizing stuff that I said last month. He's plagiarizing, stuff I've said in the past month or 2, and he's changing his ideas as I change my ideas. It's ridiculous. You could hire someone, but they would probably miss a lot of items. No, I mean, if they watch this podcast and then they go through my stuff, they could probably find it. There's no point in me doing this again. There's no point in me proving the plagiarism any further. There's absolutely no point. I've already done 3 videos explaining it in detail on it and a 4th video summarizing the plagiarism. I've explained numerous times how he's copied multiple business ideas, from my podcast name to the hygiene company to the supplement company. Every single thing I do, he does it 2 months later. Every single fucking thing I do, he does it 2 months later. Every single thing. The book cover, he's copied other people. There's no point in me. How is proving any more plagiarism gonna be any better? Is it because it was on the Joe Rogan platform that it's more of a difference? How many do I have to? What's the difference between me proving he plagiarized once versus 20 fucking times? I can already proved he plagiarized 3 times just off the top of my head watching that podcast. I literally showed the videos that the information was in. He's just ignoring and suing you. He's a sad sack of shit. So I don't really care. At the end of the day, these losers have had everything handed to them. We didn't talk about the symbolism and the secret society and that type of stuff, but we can talk about that on when we do the Tuesday live stream on Frank Tufano. The reason we haven't been live streaming on this channel is because I talk about too many compromising things. So when we do the live stream on my other channel on Tuesday of this week, we can talk about the symbolism and stuff and the other stuff that I'm not allowed to talk about on here. So thank you guys for joining me today. I'm going to leave this 4.5 hours up, hopefully for someone helping me out and finding this information, and I can pay them and compensate them fairly to just, I guess, do a 5th video on this plagiarism. So you guys enjoy the rest of your night. I'll see you for tomorrow's video.